Back with more Heartstopper. This is episode 5 of season 3. Very excited to see what's going to be happening next as we get into the second half of this season. It's been a very emotional, very tough first half. Really leaning into Charlie's mental health and his eating disorder, and how it's been affecting him and his family and everything. I think, or I hope, Charlie's through like the worst of that now, and he can kind of learn to adapt and live with, coming out the roughest patch. Hopefully it's the roughest patch, and seeing if there's going to be like a shift in focus, and other stories that they've been setting up sort of in the background so far are going to start bleeding into the main narrative as well, or whatever they are going to do with it. Either way, I'm sure I'm going to love it. So let's see what happens next and dive into the next one. Stop.
I hope I get a soul. Good mental health. I hope I get a mum who can regulate her emotions.
I love these two so much. New dog? Aww. Practicing his smile for his grandparents.
If it gets too much, there's a little guy here who needs hugs.
Aww.
By little guy who needs hugs, I did mean Henry, but actually that applies to me as well, so...
You're still looking a bit skinny, aren't you? I thought you were getting all that mess sorted out.
Charlie!
Oliver! You're getting so big!
Aww.
Merry Christmas!
I think Oliver is Charlie's little brother in the comic, but they changed it for the show. That's a lot of pressure with like everyone there as well.
What about you, Tori? Any lovely men in your life? No. We don't missing out on much. We're fine. Okay.
Stop getting up. They're fine down there.
Yeah, see, that's where it's all come from with Charlie's mum. She's like constantly haunted by her parents, I think. I don't know why I did that. Ah, fucking hell, here we go.
Ever since your boyfriend became mentally deranged, you've been acting like you're the saviour of the earth. Like, he wants attention, he stops eating, you have to be the hero who saves the day. Can you just shut the fuck up?
Thank you. Shave that stupid mustache.
Oh, you look handsome.
Now come and use those big
That's very,
straws to help me move the table.
Matt Smith's 11th Doctor. I approve.
You're gonna do wonderful things and make us all so proud.
Oh god. Ooh. Aww, they had Christmas together. That's sweet.
Some might say you fancy me.
What if I do?
I wonder what we'll do.
Oh, you do?
Awesome. Oh,
Sorry.
quite the thing to navigate that, isn't it?
You just hear horror stories, don't you? White walls, straight jackets, all that.
Did you meet anyone, like, really crazy in there?
With that.
It's frustrating when even like the younger generations are still
I'm gonna get a drink.
insensitive.
Not everybody understands what you've been dealing with.
So I just have to put up with ignorant comments when I...
Yeah, make them understand then.
You're making me feel worse.
Fine. Well, I'm sorry I even tried.
Oh. Urgh.
Go to Nick's.
Please don't.
I just can't deal with all of that.
I think he does need to go, but
Can't you at least spend Christmas with me?
yeah, it leaves her on her own as well.
You spend all your time with Nick anyway.
Because he treats me as something other than mentally ill.
I do too.
That is true.
Sorry.
I hate that there's not just like one victim, like someone's gonna get hurt no matter what is best for Charlie. Like that's like
Hey.
Aw, in the rain.
Take it this is the boyfriend.
You'd hope so.
You coming in? We don't bite, promise.
Yeah.
She is so gorgeous. I can't even comprehend it. Oh,
Can you turn around when I change?
Yeah.
You look adorable.
I look ridiculous.
Ridiculously adorable.
They're too wholesome. The fact that Charlie's been there to help Nick through his struggles, like the first couple of seasons, and now Nick's doing the same with Charlie. It's just it's so wholesome. It seems like that you do kind of feel like Olivia's obviously missing, but can't be helped. I guess it's easier for Charlie to have like a whole group of people who most of them don't know what he's been dealing with, so they can't like pressure him about it or anything. They're watching Doctor Who! I thought I couldn't love the show anymore. Yasmin's played Catherine Tate's daughter in that. That's hilarious. This is not hilarious.
You know you got a real family who actually want to hang out with you. Your dad is family. I think family are the people who actually give a shit.
Agreed. Like Tori.
Merry Christmas. You left me to fend for myself against our cousins. Oliver's in a bad mood because no one will play Mario Kart with him. Mum might be willing to apologise.
Right.
As wild as that sounds.
I love that they both have a home with the Nelsons as well. It's just, ugh.
I hate this one.
Just wish we could rewind and start today all over again. It's always New Year's Eve.
And you've got so many Christmases to come. Wonder how many dogs they'll have by then.
I think about it, like, all the time. Not all the time. A respectful amount of time that one thinks about one's girlfriend in that way. I'm just gonna stop
Tao,
talking.
I never imagined finding a boyfriend and feeling so safe with him that I'd even think about, like, taking my clothes off in front of him.
That's so sad that that's like a dream.
All my dysphoria just hit me. Made me feel like my body wasn't my body. Like I wasn't there at all. I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. I love everything about you. And whatever you want to do or not do, it's okay. I still want to be with you.
Oh, so wholesome. It's just so unfair that it's like an incredibly brave thing for people to just have to be themselves.
We can talk.
Maybe no grandparents at least next year. A bit less family. Oh. And Oliver got his Mario Kart. All is well. New Year's Eve is always really fun or an absolute flop. Last year I was on my own, so flop.
You do know you can be my taxi driver from now on, don't you?
Really? Lucky me.
Oh my god, they're growing up too fast. Oh. Aww. Awesome.
You're a prefect, aren't you? Can you talk to a screen with
Sorry, I've just got to go. I'm sorry.
Oh.
It's gonna come up through your nose. Just like that. And now it's coming out your mouth. Don't. Please. Hey.
You alright?
How are you?
I'm alright. Let's dance.
Let's do it.
Aww.
You don't need to rush to come out as anything. Just chill. And like, have fun with it. Yeah.
We'll have fun with it. Thank you very much.
Please have fun. Hello.
I love that he's still using that camera. Oh, the iconic dance move is back. I love these two together so much.
You trust him, and he loves you, and if anything goes wrong, I'll be here for you, and he'll be there for you. I know he will.
That jacket really suits Charlie.
How's your night?
Better than Christmas.
That's a pretty low bar.
One day you're gonna make friends with someone you actually enjoy being around.
The only person I care about is you.
It won't be true forever.
Almost midnight! Make sure you got someone to kiss!
Oh, you're here, are you? Good.
I wasn't doing it for attention or anything. I don't want to be just an experiment to you. Especially when you know you're the reason I realised I was bi in the first place.
Oh.
Wait, I
They had a little Heartstopper moment. Oh, that's exciting.
Don't worry, I'm not here to kiss you away. Just don't want to be alone at midnight.
Oh. Aww. Oh, blimey. Starting the new year off with a bang. Aww. She's gonna be alright too. Okay, another brilliant episode again, as always. Are we surprised? No. I loved the slight, like, I guess, playing of time a bit. You know, very two distinct halves of like Christmas, New Year's Eve. And I did appreciate that, you know, the Christmas half of the episode, again, wasn't really shying away from, you know, everything Charlie had been going through in the months prior. And still kind of leaning into the after effects of that, and, you know, the continual struggle that Charlie's still going to be facing in regards to, you know, people being insensitive and misunderstanding, you know, the extent of how unwell he got, and how unwell he still is. So that was nice, and, you know, them not kind of ignoring that. And then the New Year's Eve portion, I think, you know, brought some other stories into the fold, so it was a bit more light-hearted and wholesome and heartstoppery, which I thought was a nice kind of reprieve from things, not just for us as an audience, but, you know, for Charlie as well as a character, and for everyone who's kind of been going through it. So that was great, and, you know, I did enjoy this episode, again, putting focus on some other stories and really building them up as well, but not forgetting, you know, Charlie's kind of mainline story from the season so far. So yeah, Charlie's family. It's so hard because, you know, I think some of them are just, they're trying to be open and conversational about it, which I can respect. But I think there's also, they're a bit blind to exactly how bad it was, and they don't realise they're kind of saying insensitive things about, you know, talk about white walls and straight jackets, and did you meet any other, like, weirdos there and really insane people, you know, all that bullshit. And the fact that some of those questions were coming from, you know, younger members of the family as well. It's not just like, oh, it's just a generational thing. Some people just don't get it. And it's not necessarily their fault. And I'm sure that, you know, Charlie's parents in particular probably wouldn't have just divulged that much information to their family about what Charlie was going through. They probably got like the bare bones explanation and not really letting them, you know, informing them, I guess, and educating them, like, this is how you need to behave around Charlie if you're going to be here for Christmas. This is what Charlie needs from you. So the fact that they don't have those conditions, I would assume, it's not a surprise that they don't meet those expectations. And just the brief glimpses of Charlie's grandparents that we saw, obviously there is a generational thing there anyway, but it's very informative of Charlie's mum and how she's treated Charlie, because obviously I think that's a bit of how she's been treated herself. So it's just that, you know, I think it's about breaking the cycle now. And that's something Charlie's mum hasn't gotten away from still. I think she's still living in the shadow of how she was raised by her parents. And, you know, I'm not like trying to villainize the grandparents or anything, because they might not just have been told, like, look, this is how it is for Charlie, this is how you need to behave. And if they had been told that, they might have behaved that way. But also, I'm sure they know enough to not be like, oh, you look skinny, I thought you were getting better. All that nonsense. Oh, they'd have been out the door straight away if they talked to my kid like that. But again, you know, I think Charlie's mum clearly has a bit of a complex, I guess, about her parents, and she doesn't want to cause a falling out with them by not inviting them or not inviting more family. And, you know, it's just an unfortunate sense of timing that Charlie was going all through this, and then just before Christmas, you know, and like, it's the one kind of meal, Christmas dinner. It's like the meal of the year, isn't it? So it's a lot of pressure to have to get through that with an entire group of people around you as well. It's not just like a more intimate dinner with people who understand your condition. So yeah, I can't imagine how tough on Charlie that would have been to get through. And I think they mentioned that he ate half of it. So it's still progress from how he used to be, and I think that's amazing that he can manage that, given how unhelpful most of them were being. And I guess there's still elements of him kind of lashing out with Charlie. The fact that briefly he kind of put and grouped Tori in with the rest of the family who don't treat him, they just treat him as some of the mental illness rather than as Charlie, which obviously isn't true. And I like that Tori was very quick to say, I don't treat you like that, and Charlie did agree and kind of relented that. And yeah, it's a hard thing. I do think he was better off being with Nick's family for Christmas, but then that just leaves Tori in an awful position where she's with a bunch of people that she doesn't necessarily connect with either for her own reasons, and that's probably made all the worse by seeing how they're treating Charlie. Like she said, that he's the only person she cares about for now, maybe. So to see Tori also kind of going through struggles from that, I really like that they're not shying away from the long-term consequences of Charlie's illness and how it affects others as well. So it's just, there weren't many winners in that situation, but at the time when that scene happened, I was like, Tori should just come with you to Nick's. And I like that she did end up going there, and just as they were kind of talking about family being the ones who give a shit, when they were talking to David the dickhead. So yeah, that was very timely. I love Charlie and Tori's relationship so much. When they just she climbed into his bed on Christmas morning, so wholesome, so sweet. And I do like that. I think Tori makes a lot of an act of I have no soul, and I'm very nonchalant and uncaring, but that's very much a mask as well, I think, and she lets that mask slip when Charlie's around. She just openly admitted to she likes Nick, and then she had her little own Heartstopper moment at the party with that guy. So I'm assuming we're going to see more of that, and again they've given Tori more and more focus this season, which is great because I've loved her from the start. And it looks like they're going to continue exploring that with whoever this guy is going to be to her. I will admit I know Tori was the main character, I think, in Alice's first novel, and then Heartstopper kind of started as a spin-off of that, I think. So I know there is a lot to Tori's character that they haven't really explored in the show, because he's kind of a side character in Heartstopper. But I like that they seem to be leaning into that, and I'm assuming that guy is in that book about Tori. I think it was called Solitaire, the book. I haven't read it. So and there's a lot for them to kind of dive into and explore with that. And I'm glad that they're kind of giving Tori the focus to explore that side of her now and just see more of her and how she ticks, because she's great. I think the actress does such a great job. It could be such a one-note character to play, but there's always been an element of layers to her. You've always got a sense, even in season 1, where she was just kind of the broody sister who just seemed to just mope in the background and just drink from a straw all the time. You always got the sense even then that there was clearly more to her than that, and I think that's a lot of that is down to the performance from the actress, whose name I don't know and I should have looked up. But so yeah, they've done a great job building up Tori's character to this point, and I'm excited to see where they go with that and with her character. She's great. And Nick has a new dog, which I think is also a fairly important development. It's one of those things with the Christmas scenes. It was unfortunate they had to do Christmas stuff and they couldn't get Olivia Colman in for this season. It's just so, bogglingly obvious that she's not there. But, what can you do? Nice surprise to see Aunt Diane again and see that they were there. And, kind of showing how Nick's family just that was the better place for Chai to be in that moment. And, you know, I'm not trying to villainize the Springs by any stretch of the imagination. Because Oliver just wanted to play Mario Kart, man. He didn't do anything wrong. I'd have played Mario Kart with him. And I'm glad he got to play Mario Kart in the end. That was the truest and purest character arc of this episode. But yeah, it's just what they were talking about, you know, families who gives a shit. It doesn't have to be blood. You know, I'm closer to a lot of my friends than some of my family. You know, it's just, I like that in a show that really, you know, critiques the idea of labels and stuff. It's not just, you know, sexuality or relationship labels. It really is like what family means as well. I love that they kind of explore all of that, and they've always explored and held my voice. They've always held kind of friendships, you know, it's on the same pedestal as relationships in regards to how important they are to people. And I love that Heartstopper kind of champions that idea. So yeah, the idea of, you know, family being who gives a shit. So you can just have the biggest family on the planet if you kind of, you know, follow those rules rather than being like you have to be blood relatives or whatever. So I love that Charlie kind of has that safe space, and Tori had a safe space there as well. And, you know, her turning up just as they were talking about that, because she worries about Charlie all the time. Mwah, masterpiece. Absolute cinema. I love it. So that was great. And yeah, just from going to that to like the New Year's Eve party, seeing all of Charlie's friends, just so happy to see him again. It's just all very awesome. And I am intrigued as to where Nick and Chai's relationship's going to develop further from here, because it feels like things are a bit more settled now. You know, there's still some work, I think, for Chai to actually admit, like, okay, I'm not feeling okay at the minute, and just saying, like, I'm fine. You know, it's everyone's default saying, yeah, I'm fine. But I think Nick and Tori were kind of encouraging him to break out of that. You know, such an easy thing to fall back into doing, isn't it? But in terms of like what's next for their relationship, I'm intrigued by where that's going to go. But, you know, they're starting off the new year on a very strong front, and I'm excited for the next 3 episodes to continue showcasing that. And yeah, we saw David again. He's a dickhead, not a fan of him, but again, isn't necessarily his fault. I think he's just, you know, he's got a shit opinion of everyone apart from his dad. And I think that kind of is his dad's fault, because he's just neglected and ignored his kids to the point where, at least, you know, Nick's seen through the bullshit now, but David still just wants to impress him. And I think Nick's dad is someone who wants to be impressed and feels and is happy by knowing, you know, his sons want to impress him. So I am wondering how often like Nick's spoken to his dad since he came out to him in season 2. I'd be intrigued to learn a bit more about that. But, you know, David seems to have not learned any lessons, doesn't seem to have changed. He was very insensitive about Charlie and everything as well. So, you know, he's just a dickhead. I think the way he was raised, and well, at least his relationship with his father, has kind of made him quite bitter and resentful, which hasn't helped. That side of things aren't his fault. But the fact that his mum is Sarah, who is the loveliest woman alive, you know, his brother is Nick, just the loveliest boy alive, and he understands what Chai's been going through. He's clearly aware enough to know that he's saying horrible things and is still saying them anyway. You know, I think a lot of the dickheadedness is just on him. I'm not going to sympathise with him too much. He's just, he'd be kicked to the curb. So, you know, I think there's some insecurities with him in regards to his relationship with his father, but, you know, I don't think that excuses a lot of his, you know, being a knob, basically. So, yeah, we had that. They're continuing to build on Tara, and, you know, everyone's just talking to her about school stuff and prefect stuff, and she just distances herself from that topic immediately and kind of removes herself from that. So I think, you know, the pressure and the idea of, like, I have to make absolutely everyone in my family proud and happy you know, I think that's just going to cause her to break at some point, because that's just, again, that's so much pressure to put on anyone, no matter what age. But as young as Tara is, I think that's kind of where that story's going, and you know, she's going to have to deal with the anxieties of that and the expectations of that, and hopefully that's something she can work through. With Darcy's help, he's also clearly, you know, becoming a bit more comfortable with himself. And I loved both of Elle's friends from the art school. I've forgotten what the names of their characters are. I love that they both kind of had great pieces of advice in this episode, because, you know, one of them was there telling Darcy, like, just have fun exploring who you are. You might as well, right? So I love that advice. And then, you know, with Elle, they were kind of telling her about the whole Tao situation and trying to be intimate with him. And I love that she was clearly aware of Tao and Elle's relationship and how safe Elle is with Tao. And I loved Elle kind of saying that herself. Kind of saying, you know, if things go wrong, if you try it, you know, I'm here for you, Tao's here for you, you know, he will be. You know, she knows that he's, you know, good for her. So that was all very wholesome as well. I love that we still see those characters from, you know, Elle's kind of extended circle of friends almost, and they're kind of merging with, like, you know, her OG circle of friends. I like seeing these characters kind of mix. So that was great. And then, you know, New Year's Eve party is kind of a great way of doing that. And yeah, Elle and Tao's story, I just love them together. I think Yasmin and Will have such wonderful chemistry, and that's been apparent since season 1. So I love that they've just had the opportunities to build and build and build on that to the point where they, you know, can talk about having sex. And, you know, that's such a thing to navigate for any couple, you know, trying to be intimate for the first time. And then, you know, you add in, you know, Elle's gender dysphoria and, you know, being trans. You have to be even braver, I think, to kind of try and work on that and find what's best for both of you. And I love that Tao is just such a simp and endlessly supportive of Elle and anything she wants to do. You know, there's no pressure there. I truly believe every word he said about that. And they can just kind of explore, you know, what she is comfortable with, what she isn't comfortable with, and vice versa with him. To the point where, you know, Elle made the first move and took that first step, and clearly some intimacy was happening as the fireworks rang out there. You know, they weren't subtle with that imagery, that's for goddamn sure. So, you know, that's very wholesome, and I'm very happy for those two to have kind of taken things to the next level, because, you know, with their interactions with each other, you could see that chemistry was kind of building and that tension was building between them. So I'm glad they seem to have found some release there, and I just thought that was such a beautiful storyline to cover. And, you know, it makes me so sad, like what Elle was talking about, and like the fact that it's just a battle just to kind of be who you actually are and be who you really are. And Elle is such a warrior for that. And, you know, even outside of Heartstopper, to see when that first came out, and now, you know, there was a great interview, I think it was on the Heartstopper podcast even, I think a clip of that I saw, where Yasmin was kind of talking about, you know, that kind of pressure, and almost being like sort of the face of, you know, trans representation in media. She's very much become kind of a face of that. And she's still incredibly young, and that's a lot of weight on her shoulders. And I loved seeing her kind of talk about that, and how Elle is going through that herself here. And, you know, again, like with Charlie's mental illness, you know, the fact that they have been intimate now, seemingly, you know, it's not a magical fix. You know, there might still be things they discover along the way that, you know, are going to be hurdles for them to jump over. But it was really nice to kind of see them talk about that and navigate that first step. And, you know, do something that they really wanted to do, which I can imagine is incredibly hard for Elle to have kind of trusted someone. And what she was saying, like, I never thought that I'd actually, you know, have a boyfriend and someone, you know, who I even consider, you know, letting them touch me. It's just so sad that that's like the reality. And, you know, I genuinely think, you know, trans people are the bravest people on the planet. Like, life is already hard and awful, And that's just a whole other level of brave that you have to be, and all of them reach that level. I just, honestly, like, the amount of respect I have is insane for them. And I love that shows like Heartstopper and a storyline like this, and particularly this particular episode storyline with Elle and Tao, you know, is getting that message out there and just normalizing it, which is, you know, I think the goal of a show like this, and I think it's succeeding in that, and it should be. So I loved everything with that, and I'm excited to see what Elle and Tao, again, like with Nick and Charlie, I don't really know what's going to be next for them. So I'm like, what's next for Elle and Tao moving forward? We'll have to wait and see. Then a few other little bits with other characters, I guess. I love that James kind of showed up again and just, you know, didn't want to be alone when it became midnight and the new year rang in. So, you know, Isaac wasn't alone either. That was a very sweet moment. I love their friendship. I'd like to see a bit more of that. And then Imogen and Sahar. There's still stuff going on with that. Still a lot of tension between them. I think Imogen's starting to kind of realise she needs to work stuff out, and the fact that her and Sahar did kiss as the new year rang in. You know, there's something to that I think needs to be delved deeper into, and very interesting that, you know, Imogen was the reason Sahar realised she was bi, and Imogen didn't know that. And I think if she had known that, maybe things would have been different at Halloween and how she treats Sahar then. And, you know, there's so many question marks around those two at the minute, and I'm really hoping, you know, they get a good chunk of an episode like Elle and Tao had in this one to kind of, you know, explore what their connection is, romantic or not, and, you know, what it means for Imogen and who she is and what her kind of identity could be. So yeah, there's so much going on in this one, you know, and I like the passage of time with it. It's only like a week, I think, throughout this episode, but yeah, there's just so many complexities to all these characters, and the amount Heartstopper can squeeze into like half an hour every episode is mind-boggling to me, and it's always done so well. And there's just so much to look forward to still, and there's 3 episodes left. It has been nice to not cry an episode, I must say. That was nice, a nice kind of reprieve. This episode did feel like a reprieve, and I'm sure it was going to be heartbreaking and tough to watch again in future. But for now, I can just enjoy this moment. But yeah, another brilliant episode, and I'm very excited for what they're going to do with the like 3 remaining episodes of this season, and, you know, just how far timeline-wise we're going to keep going down this season and where we're going to explore that next. So yeah, I think that's everything. I may have forgotten to talk about a certain character or a certain story. If I have, I'm sorry. But I can't remember now if that is the case. Either way, that's going to be everything from me for this reaction. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you next time.